Record. Fantastic. It's a lovely day, the last day in June 2024. This is another ADCN webinar, the Association of Diction Coaches of Nigeria. My name is Oludolapo Adewale. I'm the General Secretary of this beautiful association, and I bid you welcome, whether you're a registered member or you are in the waiting room. Today's webinar is a general one for all of us to benefit from. And who else to lead us in this webinar? Who else? Our president, talking about Titus, Mr. Shua Bankole. He will be the one facilitating today's webinar for us. And I want you to get your book, your pen, and if you're online, if you like digital devices, get your devices. Make sure you go to your notepad on your phone or your tablet. Make sure you write down something that you will go back to and learn every day. Today is about learning, so let's get our learning caps on. I wish you all the very best as we start. So without further ado, because we have a lot to unpack today, I will hand over the microphone to our speaker for today, but please let me quickly do this. Ensure that your microphones and your videos are turned off at all times, except when called on to do so. Please, so as to ensure decorum at all times. I believe we're going to cooperate with that. Okay, right about now, let's welcome our speaker, our facilitator for today, talking about Mr. Bankole. That's Titus Shua Bankole. Thank you very much. Yes.
All right. Good evening. Thank you very much to the General Secretary. I really appreciate the kind introduction. And I welcome everybody on board tonight, or this evening, pardon me, I'm saying tonight. It seems I'm not anywhere near the country. But it's good to be on the call tonight. It's good to have as many coaches join us for this webinar. It's been a little while since we had something bringing all of us together, and I'm glad and honored to be hosting our dear members of the ADCN tonight. Like the General Secretary mentioned, considering those who are registered members, those who are on the main platform, and those who are on the unregistered platforms, on the waiting room, I hope that you would consider this an opportunity for you to see why you shouldn't spare another thought as regards committing to the Association of Diction Coaches of Nigeria. There is a bountiful amount, I'd say, of benefits awaiting you if you're yet to commit to the ADCN as a registered member. In the coming days, I can assure every member of the association that we're going to have a turn of fortunes for our lofty group. And I'd like everybody to be a part of it. Every professional who works or earns a living from this point of career should have unlimited access to opportunities that can really help them grow, not just locally, but they can begin to see their craft as something they can share and showcase to the world, expanding their knowledge and, of course, expanding their bank accounts, possibly, and making meaningful contact. So it's a pleasure to be here this evening, and I'm hoping that many more people will join in before I cover the main points and main aspects of our being here together tonight. Good. So I'd like to ask the General Secretary if I've got permission to share my screen.
Yes, please.
Thank you very much. And before I get on with that, I'd like to advise very quickly, if it's possible from your end as the host, to mute everyone. So no one has the ability to unmute. So to limit or reduce or prevent. Thank you. That was noted. I noticed to prevent any sort of distortion or interjections or interruptions. Thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board. Shortly, I'm going to share my screen, share the slides, the little slides I've managed to put together for everybody's delight to buttress all the points I'll be sharing as regards the main topic of the webinar tonight. Now, this webinar became necessary after a few observations I've made as a spelling bee professional. I can say humbly, for a good number of years now, I have had the opportunity and privilege to moderate and host some spelling bee competitions, not just here in the country, but sometimes outside the country, maybe not necessarily as the chief moderator, but as a consultant or part of a team putting together a spelling bee competition. And I'll be sharing some personal experiences, and I hope that you take out time to pick out one or two things to learn and add to your craft along the way. It's important to note that one of the ways to grow as a professional is to gather as many experiences, beneficial experiences, standard and professional experiences, experiences that are related to what you do, and you add to the pool of resources you may have at your disposal, because the goal is to become better than your previous self. When I say previous self, that your last performance, you should have a notion that my last performance is not my best performance. So every opportunity to do what you know how to do is an opportunity for you to do it better. And you cannot afford, especially in the business of communication and language, you cannot afford to show any sort of ineptitude, because that one moment you find quite unimportant, that you want to go to sleep, that you leave out a basic feature might be your undoing. Like you say, it might be what will deter you or draw you back from making some necessary progress. And of course, that might, in general, affect your confidence. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying as much as I can to buy time to have as many people join, because this would be really beneficial. So once again, you're welcome. I'm going to share my screen right away. I think I've tried well enough as regards holding the webinar from happening. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, be an excellent spelling bee moderator. Remember that this is about how you can hone your skill. You can hone your skill as a spelling bee professional or moderator or an announcer. They're all embedded in the same thing. And of course, there are some aspects of the spelling bee that you get the chance to display, and then it propels you to greater aspects, to other opportunities, just by merely being the best that you can be, being just someone who is pronouncing words. And then you have the opportunity to showcase or display some other skills related to just being a moderator or a pronouncer that will fascinate people making up your audience. And that opens doors for other aspects of the business. And you go from an ordinary announcer, an ordinary moderator, to someone who be needed as an important or a pivotal part of a team, putting a competition together. Why am I saying this? I want to start with a very common story that I really share. Before I go on, let me share one of my favorite quotes, a quote that has guided my career for a long time. I say, what is right is not always popular, and what is popular is not always right. For those who know me pretty well, this is my opening quote. I reiterate that. What is right is not always popular, and what is popular is not always right. So if you have any queries as regards not hearing anyone, you could always share your thoughts, your ideas in the chat space. The host and the moderator of tonight's gathering will very well see to your comments and messages. So let's carry on. What is right is not always popular, and what is popular is not always right. This is a quote that has guided me and guided my career over the years. And the reason why I'm showing that post is I'm someone who is given to discovering the best paths, the best routes, the best methods at what I do. And I'm not going to rely on what people consider to be what is in vogue, what is trending, what people are doing. It's about what should be done, what is necessary for my growth and progress. So I'm not the bandwagon type of person. No, I'm not. The reason, as a matter of fact, the having a lot of people pursue one same thing is enough as an indicator for me not to be among or to be a part of such. As a matter of fact, crowding, bandwagoning holds me back. This is where I go into my thinking cocoon to unwrap, oh, why are people jumping on this? What is the basis? How beneficial can this be? And if you apply this in your career, certainly you will be reaching some unexpected, some altitudes you might never think existed in your career. So it is not only about how much you know, it's about how well you utilize the little you know and how appropriately you apply them in several or situations that will warrant or will need or require them. So the knowledge, the little knowledge you have, you can expand on it, expatiate on that little knowledge, applying it to situations, solving major problems, and then you will get noticed. Being an excellent B moderator and master is a totally different business entirely. The fact that you're a diction or an elocutionist or a public speaking coach does not automatically translate to becoming or being an excellent B moderator or B master. Let me reiterate that. The point or the fact that you are in the business of teaching diction in English, or you're an elocution teacher or a public speaking coach does not necessarily mean or validate you as a perfect spelling bee master or a moderator. There are things to be done, there are things to be studied, and there are skills to be acquired. And I want as many coaches on board tonight to pick up their pens and their jotters and note one or two tips that you find pretty useful and will come in handy in your next stint as a B master or moderator. Now you would know better. After this seminar, you would have gathered enough bits of information to help you grow your craft, to become more excellent. The key word is what? Excellence. To become more excellent, not because you have done it for the biggest brand, because you have done it in the best way possible for any B master. Number one, according to my quote, the first thing you want to know here tonight is, if I'm going to be a spelling bee moderator and a master, I must know that I'm going to be abiding or aligning with the best standards possible. Yes, aligning with the best standards possible. So it starts by modeling the highest quality of presentation or the highest quality of performance there is. You're going to channel your preparation towards or in the direction of being of the highest standard possible anywhere on the globe, internationally. So let me start by telling you that you cannot benchmark anything local. Now, this might sound pretty dismissive, or you might find it derogatory. Some will find it derogatory. I remembered in one seminar that I held, that was held some years back, when I made this statement, people came for me or came at me, but in the end, they were able to unravel the mystery behind that quote or that opinion of mine, suggesting that you cannot benchmark anything local. Why? Because benchmarking the origin, the source of anything, gives you the abundance of leverage to function at the highest level. And then if you stutter, you will fall in a safe zone. When you falter and you leave anything out of the highest standard you're benchmarking or modeling, you're not going to fall off totally. You will still remain within the confines of standards. That's the first truth I want to share with you. It might sound quite hard or bitter or pill to swallow, but it is the basic truth that a lot of people shy away from. There is no iota, let me say this, no iota of confidence that you can find in benchmarking anything that is not of the highest standard of quality. No, it's just a way of setting yourself up. So note this first of all. If you get a call today, come become a spelling bee moderator or master. If you're going to start your journey for preparation, you go and benchmark what is obtainable internationally, the best you can think of. Now, that is by the way. Let's look at our course contents tonight very quickly. I have just two parts to share with you. I'm going to start with the technical part of being a moderator or a bee master, and I'll move on to the performance aspect of being a bee master. Now, these webinars would apply to two situations: on-site, otherwise known as physical spelling bee, and online spelling bee. Now, the The latter is one that a lot of people are struggling with. They are unable to immerse themselves in having the most sublime performance when it comes to online B. Online B has been a pretty hard case for a lot of professionals. And recently, in one of my engagements as an observer, I put some things together I considered as flaws. And if the individuals who were involved were able to know some of the things that we're sharing tonight, perhaps they would have had a stellar and excellent outcome or performance in the end. So we're looking at the voice quality, mastery, spelling, or mastery of spelling bee rules, getting equipped with standard pronunciation guides, research, study word origins, gather fun facts, accuracy and consistency. We'll start with this part of the webinar tonight, and I'll move on to proven tips for excellent performance with panache and finesse. The thing, or the factor that might separate you from another spelling bee master would be how you are executing the task at hand. Might not be how sophisticated you seem, but how sophisticated you perform, and it's quite obvious to everyone. So as a professional, you cannot be oblivious to the standards and requirements. Standards and requirements. You cannot depend on the knowledge of words. I know how to pronounce words. I know transcriptions alone. You will find yourself in some sort of unprecedented conundrum. And how can you delineate that part of you that will show incompetence as someone who is supposed to know? Now, let me give you one very first quote from this. When Maya Angelou, a famous American poet, said, "Whatever you want to do, if you want to be great at it, you have to love it and be able to make sacrifices for it." You have to love it and be able to make sacrifices for it. How? Let's start with voice quality. A lot of us today, we have potential to grow, but we can't let go from certain habits. Yes, someone gave an enthralling webinar one time in this group I think long ago, not too long ago, maybe last year, and the focus was on how you are perceived. Now, a lot of people do not know that the way you hear or you perceive yourself is not how people perceive you or hear you when you speak. There is a different sort of perception people have of your speaking. Yeah, so the understanding of what you hear is not the same as what people feel. So how can you consciously subscribing to all sorts of forms, maybe a professional training program or an activity to help improve the quality of your voice? If you're going to have to become a moderator or a spelling bee announcer, you have got to understand that the quality of your voice is a factor. Now, this takes me to a story. I've always done voiceover and other stuff relating to public speaking, elocution for many years before I delved into the affair of becoming a spelling bee moderator. As a matter of fact, to share this with everyone, I had taken series of training programs, done a bit of research work and personal study and research to arrive at launching a career in pronouncing words for spelling bee. So if you're listening to me now, you've got a great voice. Now you're not going to stop at that. You're going to delve into the affair of training and retraining yourself in that aspect to become the best possible, that when you appear for an interview or an audition, you're someone they cannot say no to. You already will make the mark, you make the list, and you're ready to go. So let's talk about voice quality first before I get to that story of mine. I started working on my voice as regards pronouncing words in isolation. I started with projecting more clearly, and when I want to say words, I ensure that my words in isolation, they carry punch. Now, when they carry punch, I'm talking about subscribing to the basics, meaning I know the sounds I'm going to be enunciating. Now, the sounds are not in isolation. The word is in isolation. And of course, a word has a unit of sounds. Of course, it becomes a syllable. And for words that have more than one syllable, I took several practice sessions to say words with one syllable, two syllables, multiple syllables in isolation. And I recorded my first ever personal try, I would say, was recording 500 words. 500 words in isolation. And I listened to and I managed to share and spread my word list across, talking about engaging friends and professionals who will have the time to help me critique or criticize what they've listened to. And then I continued with that exercise for close to 6 months. Yeah, 6 months. Now, in all of these, I've not started any significant journey. I haven't started pursuing trying to become a spelling bee host, no, or a spelling bee announcer. No, I didn't start. I worked on the essential. I wanted my voice to have a different quality and texture when it comes to pronouncing words in isolation. And what would you do? Now, let's take the following tips. Enough of you thinking that if you want to develop good speaking skills from the perspective of a resounding voice, a captivating voice, a voice that's without blemish, a voice that sounds and rings or tingles when people hear that voice, you need to learn what things we call breathing techniques. You've got to understand that your breathing is part of your speaking, and it nourishes and enriches your voice. It makes it quite coarse. When it's tiny, you're not born with a natural baritone, does not mean you are doomed to attain some certain heights in career or businesses relating to speaking. No. Let me reiterate that. In order to help someone's confidence this evening, the fact that you've got a tiny voice, you're not born with a coarse or baritone, does not condemn you or confine you. No, it is not. I don't want to use the word, it is not something that condemns you totally. It's something you can work on, and you don't necessarily have to work on having a baritone. All you need is to have a very strong texture, a voice that is clear and does not put the strain in terms of quality in terms of the production of your words. Yes. And then vocal hygiene. If I asked you how many liters of water do you drink daily as a speaker, especially those who engage in training programs, whether physically or online, when we have business, our personal businesses, elocution ventures, we interact with people both physically, but how well do you take care of your voice? And then you come on to take a spelling bee job and you're having to apologize all the time. You're having to do a lot of coughing, a lot of throat clearing. Time. They are considered as embarrassing features, and of course, they show how inept, unprepared, and incapable you are at that point in time. So, how do you avoid these things? You need to pay more attention to your voice as a speech expert. If you were into another business, I would spare you these notes, but because you're in elocution and in communication, there's some basic truths you need to be introduced to or be told. There's no managing your voice. For those who are born with great voices, they have great responsibilities of maintaining that great voice. So it's not as easy as I think for them, as it is not easy for you without a great voice. So the amount of work you're putting into preserving your voice also counts and matters. Practice pronunciation. How many times have you had, again, I'm reiterating this, as a speech expert, have you done recorded work? Have you recorded yourself on several occasions and sent out to people to help you criticize and look and evaluate and assess the quality of your voice as regards pronouncing words? Vocal exercises will count. So these tips are available to you to pronounce or enunciate your word proper. So if you are going to be on your way to becoming an excellent moderator, then you've got to invest greatly in ensuring that you have great or good voice quality. Yes. Another thing I've seen people struggle with is the fact that, oh, my job is to go online or go there, go to the venue, and I will have to pronounce the words. Now, be the chief judge. How? Before you leave your home, after committing to becoming a moderator, you need to understand what the rules are. And you can go from basic to advanced. Yes, let the organizers, if you're not the main organizer, let the organizers share the basics with you. Ask for their plan, and you have your own time studying their plan, and then you apply your plan, which will include having great deep knowledge of spelling bee rules. I've experienced a spelling bee where a bee master or the announcer moderator got stuck. They were groping for answers asked by the spellers. Why? Not because they were too difficult answers, but because the moderator wasn't ready. And they weren't ready, I suppose, because they had not studied, are not familiar with spelling bee rules. Yes. And these rules, for some situations, in some situations, they evolve. So why do you want to take up a job and not commit to having it done excellently? So you need to understand spelling bee rules and procedures, equip yourself with that. And then you may find yourself in a situation where some people who are not rooted or have got no substantial knowledge in the field of or the aspect of spelling bee, you go as far as offering advice and offering tips. And that's how you announce yourself to become an essential individual. Your personality or persona in that field becomes one that would be most sought after. I hope you're getting this. So knowing the rules is not just for the other members of the panel of the judges. You're part of it. The rules will be a part of your craft. From my head, I can share over 10 spelling bee rules with you right now. I remember the case someone was asking someone what retracing was, and it could not explain what retracing should be. Yes, it was there on the rule, in the rule book for the moderator. Unfortunately, there wasn't any further explanation. The details were not put there. They expected the individual to be able to interpret what retracing is all about, but they were unable to do or to tell what retracing should be all about. So understanding the rules and procedures are quite good for your technical excellence you want to showcase or you want to have or possess as a spelling bee moderator. Let me share one or two things with you. When I say being aware of the procedures or immersing yourself in the entire process, let me share this with you. So this is how it works. There are times where situations will arise, especially concerning words. The word list might be full of errors, or there'll be minor errors in your word list because I've experienced that many times. And so what do? I'll share my personal planning or preparation experience with you right now. For any spelling bee competition, I'd need the word 2 weeks before the actual date, whether it's going to be a preliminary staging of any spelling bee competition or it's going to be the highest stage or the highest phase, the final. It doesn't matter. What matters is that how much time I've got between delivering my part. Yes, how much time I've got between delivering my part. I've got to deliver my part. And then I study. Why? If I can study everything, I study words, especially when I see that there are features. By now, I'm used to the different patterns that abound in spelling bee. So it's made my preparations a lot easier because of the number of years and experience I've gathered. So what I do is I collate and curate other words that are similar to what they've given me. Check either word origins are accurate, and of course, focus on pronunciation disputes. I'm going to share more light in the pronunciation and enunciation practice aspect later on. So if you want to make good of the time, ask for your word list. Yes, especially the ones that will be used on the day of the competition. Do not ask for anything random. I know many organizers like to hold the word list back for the sake of integrity. It's understandable, but in some cases you would have to request for your words and make them understand you need to prepare. Even if you're the best in terms of articulatory phonetics, you need to prepare for a spelling bee. The biggest spelling bee names or moderators known across the world, renowned spelling bee moderators and announcers, they always share the preparation tips and routines ahead of competitions. So if you want to grow, you can be as good as anyone else can be anywhere in the world, considering how much time you give or devote to learning your words, especially the difficult words. I'll share more light on the difficult words later on to understand what I mean by difficult words. So these are just tips for mastering the rules of spelling bee. Commit to them, practice them, share with them, share with other people on the panel to understand to get that everybody understand what's going on. Everybody's on the same page. So right here, You focus on clarity and confidence. There is no point on the call or in the physical gathering to show that you do not know what you're doing, because your performance as an announcer also would inspire the performance of the spellers. Yes. And when the spellers see that our B master knows what they're doing, it puts them in proper perspective as regards what they expected to do. You are a guide. You cannot be isolated from the process. And something goes wrong, you say, oh, that's what I have on my list. That's what the organizers are saying. No, you've got to take charge. You will be expected to take charge. I'll share this story. So before I go on my biggest gigs, talking about MTN Impulse Spelling Bee, there was a little interview that happened somewhere, and we're talking about word list and how was I able to single myself out in terms of research and being able to commit to developing your craft. Many may be aware of this story. Those who are quite close or may have attended one of my classes as regards developing your craft by growing with mastery. The list of words were given, and we got to some certain words. Now, those words are seemingly simple, can mar you. They can be the obstacle between you and your next big step or the next big thing that should be happening to you. So you want to be absolutely wary of such situations. And so the list came, a lot of people tried, there were a good number of people there, professionals that all came in, and just one word, C-L-O-S-E. That's a long time ago, by the way, C-L-O-S-E. The word seemed quite simple, and everybody pronounced the word just one way, and nobody thought there was a need for us to ask the question. There wasn't any indication as to if the word that was spelled was supposed to be a noun or an adjective, because it's a plain, yes, it's a plain part of speech to determine the pronunciation of the word. So C-L-O-S-E has got two pronunciations. It's supposed to be close and could be close, close and close. For close, you hear the sound of the letter S to make it simpler for understanding. Close. And when you use close, you mean the adjective. John and I are close friends. My house is close to the police station. The mailbox is too close to the fire exit. Close. And then the other one for the verb, the action, the verb will be walk close, and also a noun, close. I leave at number 15, Johnson, close. Could you close the window, please? It's windy. Close the top or the hood of the truck. Close. Close. And I went out there and I said, excuse me, if we were in the spelling bee, this would be utterly confusing. And I had to voice out that this particular word has got two pronunciations. It's this and that. And that was it. And that was just the only thing I had to do to get noticed, to get a big role. And that's how much you need to develop and read and be vast in your craft. So it's not because I know how to say open, I know how to say close, I know how to say no. There are some very basic things you might need to know or might need to share in a certain situation, and it will lunge you or plunge you or actually catapult you. It's going to be your springboard to greater opportunities. Moving on very quickly, because of my time, I'm trying to do a quick summary of everything before I give the actual part of the performance, get into the performance aspect. So the voice quality matters. It does, because when the microphone is turned on and when you're online, you have already, there is the technical problem of the service or the network. You're struggling to be heard, and then adding that to poor voice quality, it makes the whole situation quite abysmal for you. And there's nobody who wants to engage anyone who shows that level of ineptitude anytime, anywhere. Get equipped with standard pronunciation guides. To be honest with you, there are cases where your Oxford Dictionary, your Cambridge English Pronouncing Dictionary, or your Longman Advanced English Dictionary will not be enough. There is a hierarchy, or there is an order in the world of spelling bee. And in most cases, it would need to depend on discretion to unravel some spelling bee issues. Yes, discretion based on merging knowledge, merging bits of information from that dictionary, from this dictionary, that serve as guides. So if you're going to set up for a spelling bee, it's online. Make sure you have one device They're going to use the broadcast. And on that device, you can switch to as many tabs to confirm words, especially if you haven't had time to practice. If you're a novice too, this will come in pretty handy. And I note this. I've given some suggested standard guides here. You start with Merriam-Webster unabridged. Now, what does this do for you? For those words that you'll not find, especially those that are technical and mostly related to science, yes, to science, to mythology, you'll find them completely unraveled for you with unconventional sound symbols. Let me use the word unconventional sound symbols right now, not the IPA. Other forms of representation so that they can help you wriggle your way out of that enunciation or pronunciation conundrum so that you can maintain the same energy. And of course, most importantly, you can stay consistent throughout the competition. This has happened to many people on many occasions in different cases of pronunciation. And because the word comes, unfortunately, on the word list, there is no transcription for the word. The combinations are quite tricky. They're not familiar. They're not familiar with the combination. What happens? Do you get stuck? Do you go numb? No. You have the chance and the opportunity to consult your several guides. And so the Merriam-Webster unabridged can help you through such situations, especially if you're going to be online. In a physical setting, you have to demand as a requirement for the organizers that these are things they need to keep in separate places for you. I'll give an instance. No physical spelling bee. In my physical spelling bee, I've got my own personal system, and I have a system just for the words. Now, if they cannot provide these resources, what I do is I come with my own system. I've got two major tabs opened, a separate tab for the word list and the other half for my guides, my standard guides. And so if I hit a situation where I'm not particularly sure about a word, I can easily consult these guides as to be on track so that I can remain consistent. So equipping yourself with guides, even if you're not having an engagement, but you're studying and you're doing research, it's to be advisable for you to create opportunities and times to have these study guides with as company for study. Yes. So let me give you a tip. Every week, as someone who wants to start or you want to launch a career or you want to develop yourself to a point where they ask you words and you're given the word, the origin of the word, you're hoping to get people to sign you up, and they ask you in a discussion, you're given the origin of the word, you're given the pronunciation of the word, you're given other options for pronunciation, other options for usage. You want to get there, you can try studying for 5 minutes. Open the Merriam-Webster unabridged and point out championship words. Let me reiterate, you say championship words. Check out championship words every now and then. Take 5 minutes to devote to studying championship words and see how much you can learn. And you go in this order: Merriam-Webster unabridged, Webster's New World College Dictionary, and you can go back to the conventional ones and the more popular ones we know: Cambridge English Pronouncing Dictionary and Cambridge Dictionary, Oxford Dictionaries. And the next one is to research and gather fun facts. When you are in the middle of a spelling bee competition and you can share fun facts, it only registers in the heart of those there as a master at work, a craftsman showing his impeccable skills. Yes. And when again you find a technical glitch and error where there's nobody there to help out, you have your knowledge, you tap into the abundance of resources that you have been able to build from practice and study, and you can work out the solution. How? You know, there's some spelling patterns, looking at the suffixes and looking at the prefixes. You know, when you see this particular combination, the origin of this word is Japanese. The origin of this word is Greek. It's for Greek origin or Japanese origin, German origin, French origin. It's Latin, it's Spanish. You can go on and on. When they appear, you're not lost. It can help your spellers. And such mastery is what registers and it's what establishes you as the go-to individual when these big competitions arise, when they come. Let's close with accuracy and consistency, A lot of coaches are just struggling to find a niche. They're just struggling with the basic knowledge of what impeccable or good diction in English is all about. Let me say this very quickly. I'll use this opportunity to educators or reminders. If you're a diction coach and you're not hitting it big, or you're still having to deal with people having to cast aspersions as your work, or they always are quite controversial around you, they're always critiquing or attacking you as you use the word, things you do or you say as regards diction in English, is because you're still struggling with identity. A lot of professionals must stop trying to have an American accent or a British accent. Like when you've got these accents, it's beautiful. They're considered as advantages, but they will not be enough, because an accent that is lacking greatly in accuracy and clarity and lastly consistent would be a mere sound in the ears of good speakers or communication experts. Let me reiterate that. If you've got any accent that is not clear, that is not accurate, and is not consistent, it's just a mere default of the pretender. Basically put, I don't know which other caption I can give for that. So again, my genuine piece of advice to you is that if you do not have an accent, if you're not born, say in the US or born in the United Kingdom or anywhere where English is spoken naturally, and you think the only way you can showcase expertise, clarity, proficiency in the area of diction in English, or in a broader description, pronunciation, is to have an American accent or British accent, you are wrong, first of all. And of course, it would be hard for you to build a career in these business aspects of elocution or speaking in general. So the journey starts by knowing the model. Anyone who is a learner of the language, yes, anyone who is a learner of English language must first make a choice. You have to choose which model you're basing your studying or your learning on. And then you proceed on the journey by sticking with the features of that model. Now, applying this to spelling bee is very important. If you are in a setting where a variety of the spellers are going to be native speakers and probably from a part of the widely spoken varieties of English. Let's say I know they just have British and American English. This is an argument for later part of any conversation we can have on this platform. But widely spoken varieties of English are the British English and American English. Number one, as a learner of the language and someone who intends to teach the language later on, you have to make a choice. You've got to make a choice. Is my model American? Is my model British? Arguments have been brought up in recent times regarding combining both. But those who are as dogged as I am, not that we are not given or we got impervious skin when it comes to improvement and advancement and development, we do not consider blending both as an aspect of the evolution of the language. No. When you are educated about language, you know that there is a need for consistency to avoid any sort of confusion you can create when you are teaching it. The same applies to spelling bee. You cannot afford not to be clear, especially with some certain sounds of English. Vowels, for instance. When we have the monophthongs, the pure vowels, there are variations considering the variety or differences in accents. And so you have to be sure where you belong. For instance, if a word is going to be capture, it has to be capture. Yes, if we're going to say capture, we have, first of all, two things in there. There is the confusion based on the quality of the A in the first aspect of the word, the first syllable, the initial syllable cap. You have cap there, it goes what cap. It's a British A. It is more open than the American A. The American A is not as open as the British A. That goes capture. And I'm also subscribing to roticization. You can hear me roticizing the final part of the word. And so you hear that strong American accent because American English is largely rhotic and some ever diminishing part of the UK, Scotland to be more precise. Yes, is rhotic. You hear capture. Now in a spelling bee, if you're going to do that, then you have to ensure that you remain consistent throughout the competition. And so if you're not going to roticize your words, you want to subscribe to the British model, then ensure that your sounds are pretty clear. If I'm going to say better as a word on the word list, then I have to go better, and I'm not going better. If I want to say a word like little in the word list, on the word list, little would be little. I wouldn't say little or little. Yes, consistency matters, is what separates you from others. Now, you can have situations where there are variations in pronunciation. And then as the B master, you have the job and your work is well cut out to explain to your spellers there is a certain word here that has two pronunciations. There is the British form of it and there is the American form of it. And you give your spellers these options. It also shows mastery and competence in addition to proficiency. So you see why you need to devote yourself to the business of knowing words. Knowing words mean the possible inflictions of changes. Yes, and inflections of changes. Consistency is key. One of the things I observed in the spelling bee is sometimes when you are to pronounce a word for a speller, if it is established in your rule book that your pronunciations will come once from you, and then maybe in the competition, a speller requests or asks for another pronunciation of the word, and then you have to pronounce the word again, and it comes out in another fashion. Of course, you're going to create bubbles of confusion for the speller. So the question is, how consistent are you? Yes, not because you like the sensation or the thrills you get from this variety, and so it has to be this variety. No, the spellers will get discombobulated by your lack of consistency and you become more incoherent. And so your duty to grow, or your duty as a spelling bee announcer, and of course, in general, it could be applied to your craft in general, is to be consistent with the model you use as regards diction, or let's say pronunciation right now, enunciation, not just with words in isolation, in words and technical words. For instance, you want to say the word biological. You know, there's no sound in biological. There is a phenomenon in biological. And so you have such situation coming up where there's going to be some sort of gliding. Yes, in situations like that, you have to know it. You have to be that knowledgeable. So there is no hiding place in spelling bee. The spelling bee can easily expose your flaws overwhelmingly and can also promote your skills on a larger scale. And so the question is, how much work are you doing to growing your pronunciation or enunciation skills, your prowess? And the more you are confident as regards pronunciation, the more you grow your prowess. And what happens? You are landing mastery. You land mastery. Anything other than mastery, I don't think there's anywhere else you can find a quick ladder or a ladder to that destination. And so consistency is key. If you're someone who is struggling with this, maybe you want to get retrained, you want to take some other courses to get better, you want to give yourself time to read and read again and do a lot of practice. It's not about the jargons that are embedded in English phonetics and phonology. It's about the production, the product. And it comes with two aspects. I'm going to advise you now, if you're struggling with that. One, there is a place for production and place for perception. Production and perception. For production, you're working on how you can learn the sounds of English quite accurately without any form of blemish in terms of compromising properties. And if you've got any sort of articulatory problems or deformity, you might want to get extra help, because there is a place for physics and physiology in speaking. What it means is that if you know that your dentition is in such a way that will prevent you from accurately saying some classes or a class of speech sounds, then work on what you can do to always have a close hit if not a perfect hit. And so when you have to say 10 words in an utterance, at least 8 of them will be considered perfect. How? Because they will be the functions of clarity, accuracy, and of course, over time, you become more consistent. Not today, you're sounding British. In 3 minutes, you're sounding American. That cannot unlock those particular doors to greater fortunes in your career. No, they won't. These habits are not going to get you there. As a matter of fact, they will set you miles back. And those who are upcoming with little knowledge in terms of the theoretical knowledge you're gathering will make better and stronger waves than you are. So why are you wasting so much time acquiring all of these theoretical things while you could focus more on your speaking? Now, the world is making further evolution and transitions even quicker in the 21st century. That before you know it, in over 2 or 3 decades to come, it won't be about you. It will be about what skill you possess. Before anybody asks, well, if you know this or you know that, it will be how much of it you can show when it's required. And so my piece of advice to you is turn the clock of practice upside down. I'm going to explain that to you and focus on those little things you struggle with, and then they will in turn affect or bring the advance. So go from basic to advanced in terms of enunciation practice. Yes, curate spelling bee words, record them from the easiest collection of words to the hardest of the most difficult collection of words. Go from basic to advanced and begin to self-evaluate your competence or proficiency as regards enunciation. How can you do this for spelling bee? Take one word, pronounce that word 5 times, and see how many times you changed a pattern, how many times the sounds changed. Yes, electroencephalogram, 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 electroencephalogram. That's an instance I'm giving you. Another word, koinonia, 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 koinonia. Record like that. Urushie, urushie, urushie. So that wherever your speller is from, they will get everything that needs to be heard. So when you can pronounce a word 4 times consecutively, and when you listen to your effort, you see there isn't any difference in spotted in the 4 attempts, and then you're very much good or very well on your way to landing or hitting mastery. So consistency really does matter, and that's why I put the flags there. Yes, the flags are there for you to see. Enunciation, a pronunciation, accuracy and consistency are the keywords you need for articulation and pronunciation prowess. You don't need anything else, and it's very important. Words as simple as this. I was sharing with someone recently with the BBC forecasts, and we had an argument. A discussion turned an argument, and it's got to do with the word with, W-I-T-H, with. And I asked the person that, well, I've noticed that anytime you have to say the word with and the subsequent word begins with a voiced consonant, I see that you still pronounce TH in W-I-T-H as a theta, the sound, which is erroneous. Are you that knowledgeable? Do you know that some certain words that can't be pronounced in a certain way when they have another word in their company? Sounds, I beg your pardon. Yes, with you, I can say with you, because what follows is not a voiced sound. Yes, and of course I can say with them, because what follows, to make it quite easy, to make it quite basic here, is a voiced consonant. Yes, you can get to that part as well. It's to grow your competence or abilities. These simple things we are overlooking are what would take us to those admirable places we always dream of or we desire. Not the number of courses you've taken, is how much you've done with the little you've read, the little you've heard, and the little you have experienced. Convert knowledge and use them and see how much opportunities How many opportunities await you? I want to move very quickly now. I'm going to part 2, proven tips for excellent performance. Now let's begin to criticize you. Let's criticize the individual very quickly. Remember, feel free to ask questions, to drop your questions in and out of the chat space. I'll be willing to attend to them before the main question time will be open. And the host, GS, please feel free to nudge me as regards time, so I do not overshoot the time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Before I go on to my last point here, I want to share another joke with you. I used a word unprecedented. The comment made by the General Secretary just reminded me of that scenario, and it usually plays out in my head. So anytime I recollect the situation, I first of all chuckle in excitement. And of course, when I get the opportunity to share, I share without holding anything back. When we talk about mastery and we talk about proficiency, remember, it's not about how verbose you become. I just use the word intentionally, verbose, not how many times you're spitting those rare words. They're considered as big words in the dictionary. Like I usually say, like someone who has swallowed a dictionary. It's about the pattern. It's about how interesting, how you can speak for an extended period of time with little or no hesitation. You're coherent, you're landing your points, and your views are being carried from one to the other, and it's quite rhythmic. It is music in the ears of your audience. That's what you need to start wanting for yourself. Simple. Now, how does this apply to learning to pronounce words? I used the word unprecedented in the presentation one time, and someone said unprecedented, as they were kind of surprised. Why? Because there was a book that's been in circulation. I don't know the name of the author. Even if I did know the name of the author, I'd want to withhold that. And so we had these arguments, and one of those errors you come across in books, and it's about homophones. Yeah, homophones. You know, homophones are words that have the same pronunciation, different spellings, and of course, different meanings. And the word president and precedent popped up as homophones. And I was shocked, I was terrified by the presence and citing that anomaly. And I called someone's attention to it. And someone said, well, it's one of those errors in publication, and so it is unprecedented. And I argued, I don't think I want to agree with that line of thought. It is not unprecedented, it is intentional. But when he said unprecedented, it felt like he said unprecedented. I said unprecedented. And he felt like, okay, why would you say unprecedented? Because he's never had to hear the word as unprecedented. Yes. And then he's a professional, someone who has been doing the business for a long time. But that conversation ensued. And then he discovered that there are some simple words that when you pronounce them, or words that have got other pronunciations and should be correctly pronounced. And then he got really fascinated with that discovery. And then he asked further, he probed further and said, so what can I do? What can I do to improve? I said, well, you read. And if you're a phonetician, not just by practice, by habit, you're hearing this the first time, but a phonetician by habit, you will see that there is every need every now and then to conduct or do research work. It's important, even if no one's going to stick or commend you or give you a pat in the back for that. You need it for your own development. Yes, because that's the craft that will get you noticed, not the sound of what you're doing. Is what you're doing or what is seen from you that will get you noticed. Yeah, so that's to finally drive home the previous point I made as regards expanding or upscaling or upgrading your enunciation skills with further research and study. Thank you. Vince Lombardi is a popular American football coach. He made a milestone and became one of the legends of American football as a coach, helping a team to win consecutive titles, and nobody thought that it was possible Vince Lombardi shocked the entire world and then grew into limelight and got noticed. And today he occupies a seat in the executives of the NFL. The NFL is American football, where they wear helmets and have this huge shoulder pads. That's called, or the NFL. They call it American football in the United States of America. Now, he says, perfection is not attainable. One of his favorite quotes then, he said, perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence. Can you grasp the hidden epiphany in this quote by the American? When you chase perfection, if anything goes wrong, or you cannot catch it, you'll be left with excellence. And that will propel you to great heights and great accomplishments. It will be enormous, the things you will achieve, because you're always on the path of doing things the best way possible. Such is the case, such is the direction of a speech expert. It's not about how much content you churn out, it's about how relevant, how effective, and of course, how rich your contents are. You could have 2 or 3 basic things you share, and they're quite rare, but true, meaningful, significant as regards what should be used for, and then you begin to grow. So if you want to become an excellent spelling bee moderator, like I began with, one of your key words will be perfection. And then one of the key things you will be doing is to consistently invest in things that can grow or upgrade your craft. 1, knowing the setting and competition structure is one of them. Look at my presentation now. You are probably wondering why I haven't had any network glitch or why my background is blurry. Yes, they're very intentional. So I'm somewhere where I cannot really find the perfect space that I need to hold the workshop. And so the most preferred intervention is to have my background blurred or have a blurry background as against wanting to have a virtual background. So I have 2 options. Yes, because I do not want my background distracting the audience on the call. I've witnessed 2 spelling bee competitions and with people where there was a lot going on in the background. There was a stained wall for a spelling bee moderator. I was completely outstanding. The wall was dirty. There was a pane falling apart. There was a wire, something dropping off from somewhere. And I thought, even if this were a competition organized for the lowliest of participants, I didn't think it was going to be that bad. Now, how much of perfection do you desire? And sometimes there is a misconception of perfection in terms of what it will cost. Perfection is not necessarily luxury. It's not going to cost you luxury. It's a lifestyle that can be built based on sometimes nothing. Yes, nothing. If you cannot have the best background, why not get a virtual background? Why not use a blurry background? You know that the center of attraction or the focus will be on you. So the setting matters. If you're going to have a spelling bee on the call, you cannot think because, oh, it's just a preliminary stage, it's this, and your background is in an awful state. No, you can't, because anybody could come on the call as an observer and look at you, and of course, you've missed it. You cannot take for granted. You cannot trivialize the aspect of what your setting must look like. Now, this is applicable. This is mainly talking about the online setting. Yes, for a spelling bee competition. If the organizers are not with resources to help get the best background, you have the responsibility to create the best background. Minimal noise, no interruptions, no interjections that are unwarranted and that you think they're unprecedented. That's number 1. Number 2, for physical spelling bee, you have to ensure that if you're going to have a panel, if they cannot do it in such a way, they can have everybody sit on the same line or in the same row, you could ask that you have your members, other members of the panel, somewhere you could communicate with them effectively with minimal movements that will cause distraction. That is on site, which is something I had to advise when my business grew with MTN and Georgia School of Spelling Bee in South Africa. Yes, communication has to be smooth. You're thinking something has happened. I need to send a message across to my hangman or to the chief judge or to the roundkeeper. Communication is what's effective, smooth for on-site spelling bee. Not too much going on in the background. You're isolated, no element of discomfort. You can pass information across and it can easily function as the moderator. Yes, act the part and look the part. Be articulate, be coherent, and be, most importantly, be clear. When you start giving or dishing out instructions to the spellers, say what they're supposed to say. If you want them to say something, give an example. For instance, if you're going to ask for a word again, you could say, could you repeat the word, please? Could you repeat the words, please? May I have the meaning of the word, please? May I have the part of speech the word belongs, please? Could you repeat the word again, please? Could you pronounce the word again, please? Be the example. Communicate. That's just acting the part, looking the part. On no occasion should you be found running a spelling bee like this. Now, this is a dressing I put on purpose to showcase the fact that you cannot dress like this for a spelling bee. The two options for you. It is a formal event. It's either you have a jacket on or a shirt. If you're not going to have a tie, if you have a shirt on, you should have a jacket on. Or have a complete set, you have a jacket and your tie. If you can have a jacket on, have a shirt and you've got your tie, and you're good to go to the spelling bee. Do not be too proud of the spelling bee. I've seen a spelling bee where maybe you're going to use a device, your earpiece, your headphones, and all the speakers, everything is well placed and things are sorted. I've seen someone organize an anchor of a spelling bee and holding a phone. You can't have a spelling bee that way. And then maybe you're up and down the device. I just couldn't place it. These are things that will not make you grow. It is a setting. I'm going to close by playing. I'm going to play a video. I'll play a video or two to just show you an instance. I'll show you a photo here as well of what spelling bee should look like in appearance. You don't have to look expensive, but look prepared and look professional. No, you can't wear a t-shirt for a spelling bee. No, you can't. You can't have some sort of round saying, if you're not in great health, you've got a cold, do not make yourself available. If you cannot have anything to do to help suppress your condition, then do not appear. Yes, don't. I'm begging you. So these are proven tips that can launch your career because of our time. How many role models have you got? My folders, I have videos. I have separate videos for words, for spelling bee. I've watched a spelling bee for close to 2 days, an entire competition for 2 days to get myself ready for a competition. Do you go as far as watching videos? Have you got role models? How many bee masters across the world can you name? Yes. How many times have you done simulations? I've been on a call. I would beg 1 or 2 friends and colleagues to say, look, I've got a simulation to do. All you have to do is just spell anything you like. Just be there for me 30 minutes at a time. I organize a Zoom call. I have them on board. I look like a bee master. It's called a simulation. Yes, have you gone that length? Can you go that length? That's the question. So at this point in time, because of our time, I'm about to yield the microphone for the GS, the host, so you can entertain questions and take as many questions as possible. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, President. Would you want to stop sharing the screen?
Yes, I would right away.
Okay.
And let me see if I can share a video as promised.
Okay. Just before we take questions, thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Can I go ahead? May I go ahead and share?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I'll just move on.
I'm Titus, Bankole.
This is about 4 years ago. If you can hear me. Now, I'm going to speak in the background. You can see what's going on. When I got this offer, I had to tender my requirements and resources, make a requisition. I did not do this in my house because I didn't want to have any glitch or any hitch anywhere. I wanted to have or presented the highest standard you can think of. There was this board here in the same room with me elsewhere because I didn't have enough people to join the panel. You can see, let me pause right. I will go right back. You can see my team. There's a team there. Now look at what it looks like. This is what it looks like online. And look at my background there. The brown was carefully curated because we're going to have a frame. And look at what we got there. The only thing I've got there is to get hydrated along the line. And so my headphones I'm using will have proper feedback, no distortion. And there I've got my special microphone, not expensive microphone, special microphone, something effective that can aid clarity. And I look at my appearance. And I went as far as, okay, the people I'm working with, let me brand them or with a brand. It adds to what we call finesse and panache. That's what gets you noticed. I'm not going to use the term package. Packaging, no, it's bastardized and it has some sort of negative connotation, denotation. So I'm not going to use it. It's how it should be perceived. It's not packaging. No, I disagree with that term. It is a standard set to portray the highest possible of reputation. Yes, possibility. Possibility to be what? The highest quality, the highest standard that can rival any other competition anywhere in the world. So you have to be that intentional. And so when you go on another occasion and you name your price, nobody would argue because you can refer to stuff or things you've done and they would see it as evidence. And they say, this person is actually worth this. So don't think it's a spelling bee. I'll use my phone, I'll cough, I'll sneeze in between. And when I'm sneezing, I'm going to making excuses. Sorry, I've got a cold. No, you can't do that. If you're not in the best frame of health, then do not appear. If you can't find a way to reschedule or move, then try to get well. I just stop here. I think this is good enough for the video. Thank you very much, GS.
Thank you so much. Can we appreciate our facilitator in the comment section? I want to see a lot of emojis right now to thank our president and our speaker for today. Let's appreciate him in the comment section. I just want to see a lot of emojis. Okay, some people are giving me fire emojis, love emojis, a lot of love for you, Titus Bankole, our facilitator today. Lots of love. All this love you're sharing. That's another popular line our former First Lady dropped for us some days ago. Thank you very much for all the love for our president. And some people are saying, amazing. Bravo, Mr. President. Well done. And lots of thank yous here. So let's quickly go straight to the question section. In case you've not filled out your form for certificate and attendance, please do that right away. So, President, I'll just be reeling out the questions and you'll be answering them quickly. Ola Oyadiola says, so you mentioned that those who use either the American or British accent is not okay. If I'm right, my question, what accent will then be used as a user or learner of English accent? Did you get the question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, I didn't. I beg your pardon. I had to reconnect my device. I'm so sorry. What was the
Okay.
question again?
Okay, there are two questions in one. Olaoye Adeola says, you mentioned that those who use either the American or British accent is not okay, if I'm right. My question, what accent will then be used as a user or learner of the English accent? And the second question in that regard says, what can I do to improve my tone? I already and continue to perfect my British accent, but I want to sound more deep, clear, and posh.
Thank you. I'll take the first part. So there are two widely spoken varieties of English across the world, no doubt, and we use this description in vast context. There's the context of grammar, the use of English, and of course there's pronunciation. Overwhelmingly, diction in English comes in as one factor we use to separate both varieties of English. Now, what I mean is, by not using an accent, is that there is the way you speak, that what is heard is a way of pronouncing, not clarity of pronunciation. Of course, in the British Isle, there are numerous accents in the British Isle. Yes, you could be born in Liverpool and you could be born in Newcastle, could be a Geordie or a Scouser, and your accent to be incomprehensible. You become intelligible. What it means is that there is a standard variety given for everybody to communicate effectively. And so your accent will not be considered regional. For instance, there are some other concepts in pronunciation, like glottalization now. Glottalization exists. It is a phonetic condition, a phenomenon that cannot be helped sometimes, such as elision and assimilation, where you cannot help some situations in rapid speech that will happen. That is given. But there are cases where you hear people speak and what you hear is all forms and features of Americanism, not necessarily clarity of speech using the American model. For instance, there's nothing wrong when you say better. If you want to say better or better, using the American language, flapping of T and then roticizing the final part of the word and roticizing the schwa, better. There's nothing wrong with it, as long as you can be clear and you go to be consistent throughout your speaking. And that consistency will be linked to other vowel sounds. Yes.
Hello, President.
Because you're not only going to do better. Yes.
Sorry, I'll need to butt in. We have lots of questions, so please.
Questions. Okay, let me cap it.
Yes,
So
I would like if we
when
can
you say posh, just focus on the standard variety. For instance, as a learner of the language, to learn British English in terms of pronunciation, we've got the RP, known as the received pronunciation or the BBC English. So you said that the sound system using the BBC English and received pronunciation, and then you are fine. I hope that answers the question. For American English, it's what we call the general American. It's considered to be the standard accent for learning to improve your pronunciation. So these are models. So in other studies, you can reach out to me personally. I can break down what it means by accent. You know the difference between water and water, and how to say all the tones, intonation, and stress patterns are all inclusive of developing a very unique, clear, and consistent speaking ability, and not necessarily forcing or overwhelmingly pushing accents. Thank you. Let's carry on, please.
All right, JK's speech says, what dictionary do you recommend for words with science origin? I think it mentioned that Merriam-Webster dictionary.
Yeah, for origin, you can go with Oxford. Oxford Dictionary does a great deal now. Yes, Oxford Dictionaries, they are invested in word origins too. But for better understanding, you can check out the Webster's dictionary, Merriam-Webster dictionary. There is a particular dictionary I'll possibly share in the chat space that looks at word origin also in detail and will give you examples or parts of a word that can easily jump at you, and it can determine what origin this word is of or from. I hope that's clear.
Okay. someone else is saying, I'd like you to please reiterate on the usage of the voiced and voiceless th on the word with
Okay,
Trinity. Okay, with Trinity.
Trinity. Okay. All right. Yeah, so it's when you say with now, W-I-T-A, like I mentioned, you frequently use with the theta when the next word is followed by a voiceless consonant, simply put, by a voiceless consonant. For example, handle my dogs with care. You can take your pen, or take your cat along with us. So all vowels, actually, with us, with him, all vowels, all words that begin with vowels, next word or subsequent words after with will take with, W-A-W-I-T-H, with the T sounding as the theta. Yes, we'll take with when it is voiceless. Then you can apply the reverse. So other words that begin with voiced consonants will take the other pronunciation, which will be with. I hope that explains it. With, when it's with her, with him, with us, with shame, with care. But when you have like the b, with, and in case we're with boldness, yes, in many cases. I hope that is clear. But basically, the rule is with the voiceless consonants beginning the next word, your pronunciation of the TH will be with the theta. Thank you.
Thank you. Eagle Pyramid says, you talked about the rules in spelling bee. Can you highlight the most basic standard rules accepted world over, please?
Fantastic. So there is the basic rule, but now it has become a point of elimination. Number one, that the bee master will pronounce your word just once. Two, you would have to pronounce before you start spelling. Now, let me explain why we ask people to pronounce, so that the bee master is sure that you are pronouncing, you're about to spell, you're pronounced, and you understand the word he or she has given you. That's why we say they must pronounce first. So when I say, for instance, I say spell the word quinoa, 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 and then you're supposed to pronounce and say, I've got the word and I'm good to go. I understand quinoa. So until you really understand, a speller is not supposed to say, start spelling. Yes, but once they pronounce the word, they just told the bee master that I understand the word and I'm spelling. And if they get the pronunciation wrong, the bee master steps in again to say, you haven't pronounced my word properly. And then the time already, your time alert starts ticking in such situations. So the second rule is pronounce, spell, pronounce. Now, while you're pronouncing is to tell the panel that you have ended your pronunciation. No other letter goes into my word. So if I'm spelling mango and I say mango, M-A-N-G-O, and I'm looking at everybody, everybody's assuming that, okay, you want to add more letters. So you're closing the spelling by saying mango. So just to make you understand why we say pronounce, spell, pronounce. Number two, depending on the stage, you are not to do retracing. What's retracing? When a speller starts spelling a word and they pause and they want to start all over again. When they restart, first of all, they have to inform the panel, the chief judge, the moderator, that they are restarting their spelling and they cannot change the sequence they started with, and also cannot change any letter previously mentioned. That's what we call retracing. Yes, retracing. So these are the basic rule. Now, other situations will apply to a spelling bee, whether there is a time penalty for some organizers, and then there is the basic one, yeah, retracing, that's it, retracing. And there is another one that states that a speller is not allowed, considering the environment, to look away from the camera, maybe for online. Oh, Chukune just says he didn't get the second rule. It's pronounce, spell, pronounce. pronounce, the speller must pronounce before they start spelling. And when they're done spelling, they have to pronounce. Now, the reason why they're pronouncing at first is to show that they have understood the word that has been given to them to spell, and that marks the commencement of their spelling. And if it is a time-bound sort of competition, that time will start ticking for some organizers, but to show that you have got the word, you pronounce first. And then when you have spelled, you've reeled out the letters to show that you have completed your spelling, they need to pronounce. So if you leave the spelling, you're leaving the spelling open, it is assumed that you have more letters you want to add to the letters you've reeled out already if you do not pronounce. So if I'm spelling, for instance, basket, I'm the B master, I say basket. My speller must say basket in return. Yes, basket. B-A-S-K-E-T. Did you notice I haven't said basket? That means everybody waits. Everybody waits, like you haven't completed your spelling. Until you say basket in the end, it all assumes that your entry has been taken. So that's PSP, pronounce, spell, pronounce. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right. What do you mean by champion words? Elo Hall wants to know.
Okay, championship words, actually. Championship words. You know, the difficulty levels are raised in a spelling bee competition. The words you get to spell in a preliminary stage for some competitions, anyway, for some competitions, the words you are spelling in a particular round or phase or stage would be easy, difficulty level would be on 1. If you progress to the next round, the unleash or reveal or roll out the more difficult words. So the championship words now are words that have been generated or curated that many people have spelled in finals, in final stages of spelling bee competitions, and most probably words that champions or winners have also spelled to win a spelling bee competition. They're called championship words or champion words. That's what we mean by championship words. And those words are not necessarily long, but highly technical and are based on origins. So you have to learn patterns. There's a particular word called urushie. Urushie, when urushie was unleashed, everybody who heard that word started laughing in the audience that there was no way they could spell it. There's another Russian word, babushka. When babushka was also released, everyone said there's no way. But for those who are learning or studying, if a spelling bee coach here, this is a tip. You're not just teaching your learners to cram words. No, it's not about cramming. The study extends to knowing word origins. If you know word origins, word patterns, you teach etymology in a fun way where it is linked to prefixes, suffixes, root words, and the possible derivatives. You will know that if I want to become, if I make this word Greek, there's a way I can make it Greek. We play it sometimes around that when we're preparing children for spelling bee. So that's what it means by championship words. So those words in the championship word list are not necessarily long. They could be 3 or 4 letters, but when you hear the pronunciation, they're quite difficult, and you only have to apply your knowledge of origin and possible patterns to get the spelling of the word. So those are championship words, and they really can help you in terms of exposure and pronunciation as well.
All right, thank you. In moderating a spelling bee competition, how do you group candidates? Chukwendu wants to know.
Group, I think that is rather and I think it's an open-ended question, but if I'm not wrong, let me know. I would want to assume you mean how you put them in categories. Maybe they have been through a selection phase where they have been reduced to a certain number, and then there is the final. Yeah, there is the final, or there is a quarterfinal or semi-final. I don't know if that's what you mean, but anyone who appears in a spelling bee competition may have gone through a phase to be there, and they will be expected to spell words. So there could be groups or rounds. You could say in this final, we're supposed to have 3 rounds, but no, in a final, the rounds are limited until you get your the finalists or your winners. And in most cases, if the rounds are going on and you can't find a winner, you go into what we call a spell-off. A spell-off was done by Scripps 2 years ago, and we did the spell-off in the last edition of the MTN Impulse Spelling Bee, where the finalists get to spell as many words in a given time. So the person who spells the most correct number of words will win in a given time. So I hope that's what you mean. I don't understand any other thing other than that. I hope I've just been able to answer your question. Just let me know, please.
Okay, I will get the feedback via chat. Okay, someone is saying, Mr. President, is it possible to have a harmonized scheme for teaching diction and elocution? And someone is saying that's coming from Eukarya. Another person is saying, we would need a few tips on reading competition also. Okay, let me see whether there are specific questions for today's training before you answer that. I don't think we've got any more questions. I think you've answered the question on second rule, yes. All right, President, you can answer those questions while I scout for other questions.
All right, great question there. Now, you see, one answer to that question is you'll pick up several books for study when it comes to English phonetics and phonology. You're able to explore diverse perspectives, diverse methodologies to teach, or first of all, to acquire knowledge, and then further to teach English pronunciation or diction in English or English phonetics and phonology. Now, having what is called harmonized scheme at the levels of primary school or secondary school will be difficult. Yes, will be difficult and might be limiting personally. Why? Because we have a lot of authors, we have a lot of teachers who have got simpler methodologies and ways. So what we can have is a guideline, a guide. Yes, a guide through what should be taught, but the scheme cannot be harmonized. Yes, it's a guide and how it should be taught, what level, at this level, what should be teaching at this level, what should be taught on that level. But having a harmonized scheme might be difficult because people have different or diverse methodologies to make English pronunciation or diction in English easier or more fun for learners than the other person. So that might be quite limiting. And the same thing applies to many international schools as regards developing speaking skills. Yes. So the issue of a harmonized scheme is one that is highly controversial. And to be honest, personally, I think it would be limiting. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. So what we know is a guideline can be done. I think what the person is trying to say, maybe the ADCN will come up with something as.
Oh, right. Oh, yes. Oh, well, that's possible for the ADCN. We can give that some deep thinking. It's possible for the ADCN. We've thought about it. We've discussed that many times. If members of the national executives are here on the call, they would agree with me that, yes, we have had that thought and it's something that we can explore and make happen. Yes, it's possible.
They have given us assignment to do. Okay. Then someone said we'll need few tips on reading competition also. So that's a feedback I'll take to the national executives. Reading competition.
There was a second question attached to the first one, DS, if I'm not wrong.
Which one, please?
Having a harmonized scheme. There was another question that was
Diction and elocution. The second one was we would need a few tips on reading competition also.
Oh yes, reading competition. The rubrics and the criteria. You mean the assessment criteria or judging criteria, otherwise known as rubrics? Yes. There are a few things. So we talk about rhythm. So we start with, first of all, diction is always on top of it. Diction will be there, clarity, and it covers clarity and accuracy. of the enunciation, that there's rhythm, and I will not go on to technical things like rhythm, adding tone, and something more psychological would be the voice modulation. Yeah, voice modulation. There's a whole list of rubrics or criteria that can be shared. But those are the basic ones: diction, rhythm, tone, and we have voice modulation.
Okay, thank you very much. Well done, sir. Okay, one more time. Let's have it for the president in the chat room as we close. Please fill out the form. I'll give like 5 minutes grace for us to fill out this form before I end this call so that we can all have our names and a certificate sent out this week. It's not good for us to come for this webinar and not get something to hold on to. So please, let's do that. Okay, lots of love for you, Mr. President. I would like to call on someone to just speak. Who would that person be? Just a hand up to speak about today's webinar. Oh, someone is just dropping a question. Rike, the person says standing out could be pretty challenging for a professional. Lots of clients / persons seeking cheaper as against standard. What's the way forward? Solomon Prince has raised his hand and he will speak right after the president takes this question. So Titus, did you get that question, please?
Yes, I did. Now, this is quite important to note that what you are will determine what you attract. When you say cheap, standing out, right? No, and then what you mean is do you want to compromise your standard? You don't want to stand out. I mean, if you have developed yourself to a certain stage where everything about you is of the highest standard, is something that anybody cannot afford to ignore, then you just wait for when you will be noticed by those who know quality, who can afford you. And if you wait a week, a month, a year, let me surprise you. You see those cheap, you're talking about cheap things as those who are not quantifying your worth or that cannot identify your worth. One major break like this could give you a whole year's break. Yes, I'm being figurative now. One big job you might land because of your quality, because of your standards, can take care of you for a whole year. Yes, and will launch you and make connections. So you can grow a community, or you'll be servicing a community of elite, or you want to be servicing a community of average. I don't want to use something derogatory. So the choice is yours. You want to compromise the standard? No, it is a challenge, yes. But everybody knows what comes up with something cheap. Something cheap will not go far, it can't stand the test of time, simply put. That's all I say.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. All right, Solomon Prince, please take the floor. In 30 seconds. Okay, just before he talks, that's our financial secretary of the National Executive. So please go ahead.
Thanks a million, Mom. Excellent evening to us all. Mr. President, I'm very, very grateful for this insightful webinar. I think for me, one of the major things that has happened is that it has just given more clarity to the way I operate, especially when engaging in a spelling competition. And so there are several things that I've been doing, and it's totally in sync with all that you have said. But sometimes I often perceive that people are thinking I'm doing so much, like I'm doing beyond what I should do, given some of the strict rules and all that. But thank you for just reiterating all of those rules, and that's a confirmation that what I'm doing is actually professional and it is standard. I just want to say thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Coach Solomon. Thank you.
Okay. Lots of questions are still pouring in, but we can't take more questions now. We are 13 minutes behind schedule, and we need to get back to other things. But one thing I would just say is, President, someone is asking, what about those who say pronouncer? Remember our conversation on this one.
All right, none of the conventional dictionaries, whether in recent times, have agreed to adopt pronouncer as a word to be used for someone who organizes a spelling bee. However, we have some other dictionaries, some other quarters, some aspects, for instance, a Webster, that's a form of Webster, I've seen that are adopting pronouncer, yeah, Webster's dictionary. And again, that is the spelling bee Webster that does not acknowledge or have not ratified the use of the word pronouncer for spelling bee. Yes. That's what I can say to you now regarding that.
All right.
And it can do further finding on it. Yes, and you would get clarification. Yes.
Thank you. All right. Lots of answers still raised, but if we can do it in 1 minute, I'll be timing you. Online English with BL Victor, you've got 20 seconds to talk. Then Cuomo Oganume, you've got 20 seconds as well to talk. Let's go. 3, 2, 1, go. Are you there? Online English with BL Victor. Okay. What about Cuomo Ogamune?
Yeah, I'm right. Yeah.
Yes, please. 20 seconds,
Good,
please.
good evening, everybody. Mr. Shua, I want to thank you very much. You have actually elevated my diction, and you might not really know the level of impact you've done in my life. Remember, like 3 years ago,
Wow.
you came to, so it was after my meeting you that diction was, yeah. It was actually
Now
after
I can
meeting you
remember,
that,
yes, Mr. Cuomo. Oh, yes, I can remember that name now. Well, wow, this is astonishing. Great to have you on this platform.
thank you, it's my pleasure. So it was actually after meeting you that it was actually unlocked. So you have this gift of actually teaching diction perfectly. I've met with other diction teachers, but I must say you are exceptionally good. Gracias.
Oh,
Thank you very
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
I really can't appreciate you enough for your kind words. Thank you so much, Mr. Cuomo, and you're welcome on board.
Thank you. So waiting to see you on the registered platform soon.
Yes, that's the next step.
All right. Is online English class ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay,
Good
please go
evening.
ahead.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you so much for this insightful webinar. I first met you at NAP's spelling bee contest at Ikeja Airport Hotel. I don't know, maybe you can still remember, like 2022.
Oh, yes, Naps, the final Lagos. Yes, I can't remember. Wow, good to have you here.
I've been trying to connect. Well, thank God this evening we're able to. Thank God that's a very good one from you. You really, really impacted me as a person tonight. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine. Thank you so